This shall be interesting. Well, I don't want to talk loud because I'm scared people can hear me. But like, what can you do, right? Something has been, I need to get loud. Like, you guys probably can't even hear me. And I'm outside, so there's construction going on. Stepping outside of my comfort zone. I think somebody's about to walk by. This is so awkward. Oh my god. I knew this would happen, but I have to just keep saying. Okay. Oh no. I'm gonna wait a second. This is really awkward. I need to just not be afraid. What I think is more awkward than what I'm doing right now is when another human walks by and pretends like they don't even see you. Like, I know you see a chick sitting here, just say hello. Or just, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so that inspired me to not give a fuck. So, I asked you guys yesterday, sorry, I guess people aren't staying home. I'm just joking. I asked you guys yesterday what you wanted me to talk about because we're pretty much all kind of stuck at home, and the only thing we have in common as of right now is the internet. So hey, it's nice to see you, and I'm sorry I should have been on these like a week ago. Yeah. Anyway, I asked you guys what you wanted me to talk about during this kind of stay-at-home order. And one of you guys asked me, actually a couple of you guys, but in different time periods, which was interesting, so I think it was a sign. But one of you guys asked me if I still think everything happens for a reason, and if this coronavirus is a result of past sin. And that one really stuck to me, so I wanted to talk about that, but kind of in a different aspect. This morning I was sitting there and I was kind of thinking to myself, what is a way that I can compare this whole pandemic that's going on to our personal lives to get us to either understand what's going on a little bit better, or for us to understand how we can handle this situation a little bit better. So I was like, well, all right, let's think about it. All of us together, it's going to be a little analogy, all of us together are at a stay-at-home order, right? Pretty much the whole United States, and other countries too. But I can only talk about what I'm experiencing right now. We're at a stay-at-home order, okay? So in this analogy, I'm going to put all of the population of all of us together into one human being, all right? So all of us equals one. And this coronavirus, as opposed to it being this unseen thing that we can't really see, it's our mind. So think about it. Us all as a population, we like to call each other sheep, right? We all act the same sometimes. We're all human. We have at least some innate characteristics that are the same. So if you think about it, I'm getting distracted. I feel like just people can hear me. Ugh. Stay on track. All of us together equal one human. This coronavirus has caused us to be on lockdown, stuck at home, and we feel like we can't do anything. When in reality, we have the plethora of things that we could be doing right now in any shape or manner. So all of us are suffering from this virus that is in our head, right? So this virus that is in our head is stopping us, making us feel like we don't know what to do right now. That's how it's making us feel. I've been in a lot of personal positions where I feel like I have absolutely no idea how to control my situation. I don't know how to start up a routine. I don't know how to do anything, either because in previous scenarios I haven't been able to work. There's times where we feel out of control. So I thought to myself, if we kind of think about the virus in that way and think, damn, we are really allowing one thing to keep us all on lockdown, and we're not doing anything about it. Our mind is keeping us on lockdown, when in reality we can go out and we can do a whole bunch of things, regardless of the fact that this stay-at-home order is happening. So then I got to thinking, all right, well, sometimes analogies are hard to explain. I'm even having a hard time explaining what was going on in my head. So let's kind of talk about something that can uplift us. So I've never really talked about it, only because I'm still kind of dealing with it and understanding it. But as many of you guys know, I don't even know how long ago it's been because my memory is so weird, but I want to say it's been like 5 years. Maybe no, 4, but since I got into my car crash, and I have extreme memory loss now. So when that happened, I had already been through a couple things. I had already lost my mom, and that was kind of another moment where, that was like my first moment. Oh my gosh, okay. Here's how I'm going to explain it. What all of us are doing right now is allowing ourselves to not progress forward because we're scared of the future. I've been there before, and because I know what the repercussions are and how fast time can fly, I want you guys to learn from the different situations I have been in and use that as inspiration to handle this situation that's going on right now, the coronavirus and us not being able to work, you know, all of that jazz, us not knowing what to believe, just being kind of deboggled. So the very first time I realized it's okay to change, and that what was working for me then isn't going to work for me now, was when my mom passed away. So I had this lollygagging lifestyle where I was just a spaz. I was the class clown. We've all heard my story. If you haven't, I mean, it's on my channel, but I don't want to like get too deep into it. But after, you know, you lose a loved one, and we can make other videos talking about this, but everything changes, your routine changes, and there's really nothing that you can do about it. And it's kind of similar to what's happening right now, but this happened to me when I was 16. So I feel like because I've been through such a wild pandemic in my head when I was such a young girl, I'm able to go through this really calm and just allow what happens to happen, because that's kind of just how life works. So when my mom passed away, my routine completely changed up to the point where the person who took me to school and was there was no longer able to take me to school, and like everybody else had their license. So I didn't even have my license, I didn't have my permit at the time, I wasn't even ready, and I was a junior in high school. And so when that happened, that was the first time I realized, you know, routines have to change. Growing up, I was a gymnast, and our routines were our routines. We stuck with that, and we made sure it was perfect. And then when it was perfect, that's how we portrayed it. It was just perfection. We worked our asses off to do that routine. I was used to that mentality of my routine stays the same. That's like a lot of the reasons why some of us are able to go throughout our days, because our schedule is a little bit busy and we have a routine we have to stick to in order to keep up with our own lives. That time just flies. So when a part of my routine completely shut off, which is like what some of us are experiencing right now, not being able to work, not being able to go to school, not being able to hang out with our friends, not being able to work out, I experienced a little bit of my shift when my mom passed away. So then let's fast forward. I got back on schedule because time keeps on going, you know. Things only last a little bit of time. That's why everything is so temporary, and we have to remember that it's really hard for things to get concrete. Our minds will never be concrete because we're ever evolving. But when the outside situation seems like everything is just stuck and concrete, we start going crazy inside, and we can't let that happen. So let's fast forward a little bit. I'm now a senior. I've blown out my knees, and I was focused on gymnastics being my key to college, because even though I had a good GPA one year, my grades weren't that spectacular for me to get into a D1 school where I wanted to compete for gymnastics. So I was hoping I would have a scholarship for gymnastics that would help me pay and to get into that school, and hopefully I'd get accepted, you know, all that jazz. That all of a sudden got cut off. So which is another, I'm seeing this happening to so many young athletes right now, even like with the Olympics or with other sports, is that they've been training for so long, and now all of a sudden it's changed. We can't go to the gym anymore, we can't work out anymore, we can't even probably see our coach. Things are being weird. So when I blew out my knees and I couldn't do gymnastics anymore, that's when I experienced another huge shift in my personality and in my lifestyle, because I've never talked about it, also because, you know, when like you lose somebody that's really like, you know, near and dear to you, it's kind of hard to talk about it. That was my complete life, and when I wasn't able to do it anymore, it like shattered me, and I had to move on from that. So it's been hard for me to even like think back on that time period, because I wish I was still doing that, and that's just like not me anymore. And I had to switch my routine and my lifestyle and my mindset, because I wasn't a gymnast anymore. I forever will be, because that's what my past was, but in the present moment, that's not my future anymore. So that could be what some of us are experiencing right now. Maybe we're on standstill, you know? Maybe we don't know how long things are going to get back to normal. But we have to keep our bodies in shape and our minds in shape. So when I blew out my knees, I couldn't work out my knees, but you could still work out your arms, you know? You could still do little things. You can't let your bodies go during a hard time. So that was when I learned your body can wither away when a crisis happens. So all of us right now, even if we aren't an extreme athlete or we don't even work out, we might not be eating the same because our routines are thrown off, you know? Our minds need fuel to function. So we just really have to keep in mind. And again, I want you guys to learn from the experience that I had when I was just a young athlete. Just, you know, there was no sickness going on, there was no closures, I could still do everything, but I blew out my knees, and I don't know if it was for a reason, if just that wasn't what was supposed to be happening, but me sitting there and questioning was just wasting time. So that I kind of want to say, because all of us right now, what are we doing? We might just be stuck to our phones, we might be trying to distract ourselves because the present reality isn't what we want it to be, but by distracting ourselves, we're not getting anything done. We could be doing a whole bunch of things, you know. You could be, you know, finding a new job to someplace that is still open right now, like a grocery store or a hospital that needs some volunteer. You could be starting a YouTube channel that you've always wanted to start. That's when I started my YouTube channel, is in the next crisis I kind of want to just talk about in a blimp, but my car crash. After my knees recovered, everything was fine and dandy. I honestly started going to college. I knew that gymnastics wasn't really ever going to be the same because I've had now at this time a total of 3 reconstructive knee surgeries. So after my first knee blowout, I went through that again and again. So guys, there might be more hiccups to come. This might not be the first world crisis that we experience, but we can make a mistake and let it distract us, but we can't make that mistake again. So I learned a couple mistakes from when my mom passed away, then a couple mistakes from my first knee injury, then my second, then my third. Then came my car crash, where I learned basically everything I freaking have learned about myself today, but it was the #1 moment where the biggest epidemic that could have ever happened to me happened. Like, I couldn't go to school anymore, I couldn't do it, but it was simply because of the way my brain was functioning. And that's where I feel like this coronavirus is in a very, very good comparison, because I was on complete lockdown when I got into my car crash. It wasn't unlike when my mom passed away. It wasn't like when I had blown out my knees. This was a completely different scenario. When I blew out my knees, I had like one knee hurt, you know, but I could still walk around, I still had crutches. When I got into my car crash, I broke my pelvis, so I couldn't walk for 2 months. And I had an external fixator in my hip, I broke my sacrum, I did a whole bunch of stuff, but on top of that, I broke my freaking brain. So that's where I feel like all of us are right now. Our lives feel broken, our brains feel broken, our routines feel broken. But guess what? I promise, and I know I need to make a whole series about it and go in depth, because it was a really interesting situation and I learned so much from it, but I just haven't talked about it because I don't think I've ever been ready. I was literally just on, and what was even more interesting was that, no, I want to save that for when I talk about it more in depth. But I completely shut down, you know, and I kept asking myself, everything happens for a reason, why is this happening to me? So I feel like that's exactly what we're asking ourselves right now. Everything happens for a reason. Why the hell is the whole world shutting down? Why is everybody losing their jobs? Why is the government acting strange? Is this even happening, like, for what is really we're being told? So when I got into my car accident, I completely locked myself down and I isolated myself, and I didn't allow myself to leave my house. And that carried on for a really, really long time, until I sat there and realized that with the time I've been wasting, and if I do believe everything happens for a reason, then I need to use this situation for the best to my advantage, and not be sitting here questioning the universe, questioning my freaking deceased mom on why this happened to me, crying about it, when all that time I could have been writing, I could have been studying, I could have been educating myself, I could have been learning how I could make my body healthier when I did get my external fixator out. But instead I wasn't doing that. I was sitting in my house, I was watching, you know, YouTube videos that wouldn't really benefit me in the way I thought it would. The makeup tutorials, they did benefit me. Jaclyn Hill telling me years ago that when she was a young girl, her mom used to tell her that makeup is temporary. So if she does a makeup look and she doesn't like it, wipe that shit off and do it again, right away. Because it takes practice. It takes practice. And that's why when a bunch of you guys are asking me, how the heck do I get my routine back on schedule and how do I get everything back in order, it will take practice. It's not just gonna happen in the blink of an eye. So remember when we talked about the power of a seed? We talked about the fact that sometimes when things aren't going the way we thought it was, when what was working for us isn't working anymore, and shit, what we took as normal isn't normal anymore, we have to rip up our entire garden. We have to rip it up, take out all the old seeds, take out all the roots. We gotta put new soil down. That's just step one. After that, it takes a lot of things. Remember, we gotta plant the seeds, we gotta care for the seeds, we gotta water the seeds, we gotta nurture the seeds. We have to take patience in letting our garden grow, because if we don't, then what happens? There'll be no garden that's here. Or the old garden that was from last season is dead, it's not working for us, it's not growing anymore, like us. We're dead. We haven't ripped up our old seeds and planted new seeds so our garden can grow into something new. Because I promise you, right behind me, there'll be cucumbers one day, but I learned my mistake of last year in planting those seeds in the wrong spot. That's something I've never thought about and we've never talked about. So what if there's a possibility that you planted a seed, you let it grow and it did great, but it was in the wrong spot? Some of you guys are talking about relationships that you're having a hard time, or you want to get out of, or you feel like you've grown past the person you're with. Your seeds thrived. You're picking cucumbers and pears and apples off of your body and you're doing great. But what if you want to try a mango? Or what if you want to grow a grapefruit? Or what if you want to just grow flowers? It's going to take shifting. It's going to take changing your routine of tending to vegetables to, all right, I got to tend to a flower now. What was working for me, maybe it did work, but now it's time to change. And I feel like after this whole epidemic is over, we don't want to be the little caterpillar that we started out as. What if we could evolve into a crazy butterfly now, and then when all this is lifted up, we can fly out of here and be like, all right, I wasn't stuck, I have a new mentality, I know that I can't be relying on everything else. What if now is the time where we can realize, hey, this is why everybody used to be a farmer back in the day, because they had their own cattle, they had their own crops, they didn't have to rely on everybody. They didn't have to rely on the local farmer's market, they didn't have to rely on another country sending them necessities. They had it themselves. So why don't we as Americans start doing that? Why don't we start growing our own stuff so then we know what it's like to not have to rely on everybody else, and then when certain things stop, we don't, you know? Like for me personally, and I'm very blessed, my life hasn't stopped yet because of any of this. And it's only because I had to change my present circumstances to know that my future would be okay. I know that I don't have parents to lean on, so I have to make sure I have myself to lean on. I'm not leaning on the government, I'm not leaning on my neighbor, I'm not leaning on a friend, because I know I have my back at the end of the day. And that's how I believe I'm allowed to help everybody else, is because when I was younger, I had to go through all of these weird situations to maybe like open up my mind. I don't freaking know, but I truly do believe that everything happens for a reason. Even if it's unknown to us right now, it's happening for a reason. Maybe it could be that this is just a time for us to show, like I said, that we can use this time to do something better. Maybe you didn't like what you were doing before. Maybe you were going to school for the wrong reasons, or the job that you had you really secretly hated, but you had to make money. Now is the time for you to start doing what you really, really want to do. And that's what I used that's what I used when I was in my car accident. I was stuck at home, I couldn't go to school, I couldn't work, and it was because of the way my brain was functioning. I used that time to start my YouTube channel. You guys know, if you see in my first or second YouTube video, you can see my external fixator in my pelvis. But I said to myself, I've always wanted to make a YouTube video, now is the time. I can't go to school, I can't go to work. So why not do what I've always wanted to do? And now 4 years later, I'm still realizing the things that I have, like the channel that I created. It takes time. It takes years for people to realize what they have and what they possess and what they can do. But I feel like because we all have this internet, we're all connected right now, it's way easier for us to just go out there and help each other. Even through books. If you don't want to be all locked up on the internet right now, go read an amazing book. I'm about to read a book about a man who all of a sudden is paralyzed and has locked-in syndrome, and that's where he is. So it's weird how everything is connecting. Like, we're on lockdown, you know, I found a little book that's about lockdown syndrome. You guys are messaging me, asking me, how the hell do I get back to a routine? How do I start a new routine? How do I do this? Well, I believe that it starts with realizing, A, how you're handling it right now. The emotions, is social media distracting you right now? Is it not uplifting you in the best of ways? You know? Do you need to lock down your phone like you're supposed to be all knocked down at? home, you know what I mean? And then what are your goals? It starts with writing down goals, you know? Just yesterday we started a highlight about our goals and accomplishments because I want us to be uplifted by everything that we can do in crazy times. So I just want to look down and make sure that I read and covered everything that I wanted to. But yeah. Also, one little thing that I had written down here was that, you know, with each one of the little experiences that I had, with getting in a car crash, with blowing out my knees, with losing my mom, with losing my dad, I kind of had to say goodbye to that Sarah. It's not that I mean, everybody changes, but you have to say goodbye to that person so you can move on and become a new and improved person. I literally haven't left anybody behind because I've taken everything I've learned and the mistakes I've learned and just helped myself evolve. So it's not saying, you know, that once this happens to forget about it and act like it never happened, because this did happen. We have a lot to learn from it and we have a lot to take from it. And yeah, I think now that all of us are on lockdown, it's a great time for us to ask how we really met the true version of ourselves. You know, we are distracted with school all the time, social media all the time, working all the time. I don't think we really ever have the time to ask ourselves what we really want to do. Like back in the day, I would have never imagined myself gardening the way I do, like growing fruits, vegetables. I wish I could grow fruit here, but growing vegetables and stuff like that, I would have never imagined myself doing that, or being more inclined with nature right now than I am with makeup. Like I don't remember the last time I put makeup on, but yet I made a YouTube channel about makeup. So it's kind of just like things change, and you know, you can say goodbye to friends too. You could say goodbye to YouTubers you used to watch. Like, hell, you could say goodbye to me and be like, hey, you know, you helped me while it helped, and now I need to go listen to somebody else's advice or something like that. But yeah, I think now could be a great time for us to just look in the mirror and, hey, if you don't like your body, you're stuck at home. Do something about it. You know, if you don't like the way you cook, learn to cook. If you don't like the fact that you don't know how to play an instrument, play an instrument. If you want to garden, dude, garden. It's spring, so use this time. So like I said, you could walk out of this with your head high and not just be, you know, either stuck in conspiracy theories or stuck in the fact that your old life may not ever come back. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but more so just like, you know, you might not go back to the same job or the same lifestyle or wanting to have the same lifestyle. I mean, me personally, there's a lot of things that I would like to change about myself, especially so I can better this YouTube channel. But yeah, I just really wanted to come and talk to you guys about the fact that crazy events will always continue to happen. So we can either let it press pause on us in our lives and wait till the storm passes through, or we can use the time wisely while the storm is here and kind of just better ourselves. So really hope this helped somebody. And if not, please make sure you're drinking your water. And I will see you in my next video.